Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the PMI UAE chapter webinar. We welcome you all to attend this particular informative session. As usual, what we keep on doing as a part of the practice of the PMI chapter to keep everybody updated, everybody informed, and everybody engaged. I welcome you to this chapter webinar series again once more, and then we will wait for a couple of minutes for everybody to come and join us. My name is Anshul, and I am the host and moderator for you from the chapter side, and would be engaging our audience as well as our presenter today, who is with us, Mr. Ahmed. And we will be definitely going to have a great session today, as usual. But most importantly, from wherever you're joining, Assalamu alaikum, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know if you're joining it from different time zone. I'm seeing some good morning messages to me, so I'm expecting somebody's in different time zone as well. So thank you for greeting me out. Lovely to have you out, guys, for giving us support as usual and keeping us much more engaged throughout. We will be having this particular webinar for somewhere around 1 hour and 15 minutes. And we are going to introduce the format of the webinar to everybody who is joining the first time in that case. Just give us a couple of more minutes so that everybody can come and introduce themselves in the chat. And you can even write your greetings in your own language, okay, if you want to, like, just for the fun. And you can tell your location also. That will give us a good idea for the diversification of our audience as well. Happy Diwali. I think some people are writing happy. So good evening and happy Diwali to the people who are celebrating, of course. And it's a good gesture. And then absolutely is a good festival for the Hindus at that. But yeah, I wish you happy Diwali to the people who are celebrating with all of us. Meanwhile, with that an occasion, today's question and answer round will be handled by our person, Mr. Parvez, as well with us. And then he is going to handle the Q&A part at the last because I have to take some other engagements after this. So I will be definitely being helped by the rest of the team members in the events team. Thank you, Parvez, for giving that gesture and helping hand to me. And then apparently we have somewhere around 87 people so far joined us now. We are waiting for getting it 100 as usual, most importantly. Uh, More than 300 registration normally have come to the webinar. So normally 100 people and more joins us in this webinar. That's normally the average. Definitely I've seen in the past couple of occasions. So just wait for 2 or 3 more minutes and then we formally introduce the webinar chapters and then of course introduce our speaker as well, who is with us waiting eagerly to share his thoughts and experiences with all of us. Okay, so we are yet to touch some more people. Some repeated audience I am seeing. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Good to have you out back. And the people who are joining it first time, welcome. And then we all think that you can make the best use of this 1 hour session from the perspective of knowledge, from the perspective of experience sharing, from the perspective of networking, and from the perspective of gathering the PDUs. For gathering the PDUs, as usual, you have to just make sure that you register for the webinar using the same email address which you have in the particular PMI website. So use that particular email address and it will automatically should get to you. Meanwhile, we have seen that normally we see the people who are joining us first time. I will be introducing them to the chapter as well. We encourage all of you to get engaged with the chapter. We have all social media channels with us. And then we do a lot of activities beyond the webinars as well. And one of the important things which I would like to introduce and announce today is that for the members of the PMI UAE chapter, just important information is that we are going to introduce one in-person event on 17th of November at Dubai Media City, which is at the Movenpick. And then I think formal announcement has already gone into the LinkedIn, if I'm not wrong. But the more announcements will be there on the social media platforms as well and the PMI UAE chapter website as well. So if you come and first come, first serve basis, if you register it, I think we will be able to get engaged there as well. So that's one thing. And then One good part is that PMI UAE chapter has another achieved one important collaboration with TEDx. And then as a part of event-based collaboration, we are happy that the particular engagement which take us to the new heights, and the TEDx community and the TEDx social media is also going to be the part of the chapter in the form of event collaboration. So don't get surprised if you see their logos or anywhere as a part of collaboration with the chapter, because this engagement has recently been announced and done with our outreach team. So link to the announcement, I believe that link to the announcement was done recently on the LinkedIn, if I'm not wrong, from the PMI UAE chapter for the event on 17th November. But definitely you will be able to see it in the chapter website, pmiua.org. You can visit it, and you should be able to see it there. If it's not yet done, I hopefully it will be getting it done in this week, more importantly. So with that in mind, I think we are good to reach. We have reached 100 point already into the webinar now, as per the audience is concerned. So let me introduce myself. My name is Anchal for the people who are joining it first time. And then I welcome you with the bottom of my heart for this a part of the webinar. You are here taking your valuable time out and then giving us this particular opportunity to engage. And then it gives you opportunity to ask the right questions as well. So I will be a part moderator tonight. And then, of course, my partner, Parvez, will be taking it over in the Q&A section today. With me, I have Mr. Amir and Joyce also as a part of the teams who are extending their usual support to us from the back end. So thank you to both of them, guys. We have our esteemed speaker and guest, Mr. Ahmed, who's the founder and CEO of PMO Consulting, who is going to take us through his experience today as a part of today's webinar on the development of the business-driven PMO, that is Project Management Office. And this model plays a critical role in organizational success. As we all know, PMO has a key role absolutely in the enterprises, and especially the companies who are running through the multiple functions together. It also introduces a 5-step framework for building a PMO that drives strategic success and maximizes the return of investments, and then operates like a core department. Before we take a deep dive with our speaker, I would like to explain some housekeeping rules and notes. This webinar will be 1 hour, 15 minutes overall. And before we introduce the topic in the brief and Mr. Ahmed's bio, I would like to introduce our chapter. PMI UAE chapter is the part of PMI organization. And then we are going to give a small presentation to you with this now. And then, of course, we are going to keep a Q&A. If you have questions about today's topic, we encourage you to ask them in the Q&A section. And then Mr. Parvez will do his best to accommodate all that question in the time frame. We encourage you to post your chats and interact with the people who are there in the chat section to make this as conversation as engaging one. So let me introduce the chapter now with a small presentation. Second, share. Okay. Great. So PMI UAE chapter, which is the part of the PMI group, which was founded by 1969 as a part of the working project managers. And with after 50 years also, PMI is one of the source and the resource for all the things in project management, as we all know. It is one of the largest professional association in the world. And it also do a lot of work in the form of accreditation and training and the standards publications as well. The chapter has its own vision to empower and influence individual with the innovative project economy principles to turn ideas into reality. And the mission statement goes with to disrupt and create value driven opportunities to our chapter members, which is most of the people who are attending this must be, and the partners who become agile, innovative, and productive in their platform for the growth of project economy. This is some brief about the chapter. People you can see in the pictures, and also it's mostly run by the volunteers, actually by 100% volunteers, 4,000 plus active chapter members now, and then it's being ranked into the top 5 into the EMA region. We are serving UAE as a part of community of project managers and certified holders into program and project management space, and also offer a lot of importance to our profession. We do workshops, in-person workshops also at times, and then we dependent on you to make this chapter activities as interactive and integrating as possible. This is our board of directors and Mr. President, Mr. Adil Sultan, who's leading from the front, and the rest of the board of directors who are playing their part to support Mr. President and the chapter activities. Some membership benefits which you should be cultivating with this is that networking and learning and knowledge sharing, career growth opportunities, and events. So this webinar is the part of event series. We are doing this webinar to diversify topics so that to accumulate the knowledge, encourage the collaboration and engagement, and then also to introduce the networking as a part of it. Some recent initiatives which are being introduced as a part of chapter are this member corners and then the member spotlight, which allows the members to position themselves and to allow to project their work, their contribution to the community, of course, as a part of the branding and the marketing side as well. And it gives the recognition to the members as well that way. So you can write to the newsletter at pmiua.org if you're already the member and would like to share your articles or anything which you like to get introduced into the members corner as well. And marketing team will take the least of the honors there. If you want to encourage to learn more about the chapter activities, definitely you are encouraged to go to pmiua.org. And then you have the social media handles. On every channel we are there, and this PMI chapter is also being recorded and published into YouTube channel. So that's about the brief about chapter. And then coming to our speaker, give me a minute. Yeah. Coming to our speaker now, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed has been there onto the horizon from 19 years now, approximately as a PM, and 9 years with the delivery office and the PMO. He is also the part of Impact Inner Circle Mastermind community, and also the expert judging committee of the PMOGA. And also the industry expert into public, private, and consulting nonprofit organization. We are going to learn with him about PMO and the strategies of the frameworks to bring the value model into the PMO and then unlocking the business potential through that. So with that, I would like to hand over the stage to Mr. Ahmed. Welcome him, and then he can introduce his own topic on his own way. Mr. Ahmed, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much indeed, Ankal. It's been a pleasure to be part of this kind of insightful yet, beneficial. It's going to be fast and sweet, I believe. And thank you so much indeed for the opportunity from the PMI UE chapter. I'm so grateful and pleased to be part of such an exceptional community within UE. Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome. You can start your presentation now, and then apparently with the end, Parvez will pick it up the Q&A to help you out, Mr. Ahmed.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much indeed. Just give me a sec to put my presentation up here.
Not sure if, can you speak it once more, a bit near to the mic?
I'm sorry. So do you see the screen so far?
Yeah, screen is visible. Yeah, now it is coming to the full screen as well. Not sure about the audible. His audience is having any kind of trouble in listening out to Mr. Ahmed's voice. Can somebody just confirm me in the chat as well? Or the rest of the team members also can just get their confirmation about the audible of Mr. Ahmed. And Mr. Ahmed, I think you can speak and we will see it. We can hear there.
Yeah, okay. First of all, thank you so much indeed again for such a great opportunity to be here today. So I'm gonna present today for our lovely, exceptional PMO leaders, agile transformation team, vision realization team, project program, you name it. So it's going to be really insightful and very beneficial kind of session today for every one of you. So just give me a sec to kick it off. Okay, then.
Mr. Ahmed, you can try to put off your video if you want, just to see that whether the voice will increase with that or not. Otherwise, you can continue.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so the main purpose today for this today webinar, I believe, is all about, as I said, to showcasing and present a time-tested and proven sort of like a PMO business model. It's a PMO business-driven kind of implementation approach. I've been using over 9 years so far as part of my PMO leadership journey with different PMO organizations. Okay, so it's really helped business leader and C-suite executive is to transform their business model and to help them to drive the business strategy and improve, the holistic ROI across different portfolio level and different value streams as quickly as possible. So the expected business outcome or the expected result, I believe, from this kind of webinar is really showcasing or really and shifting the mindset of the PMO leaders or the audience who are listening to us today or part of this kind of webinar today, is really helping the whole, I mean, the mindset of the PMO landscape has been changing for the last 5 years. So the success metrics of the PMO and the value-driven PMO is not anymore about time and cost. Okay, it's rather than the tangible business outcomes. Okay, and the business value the PMO could really drive the organizations through driving the company's business, strategies and help them to realize the ROI as quickly as possible. So it's not anymore around the triple constraint, time, cost, and quality scope kind of metrics to measure the success of the PMO. Again, is rather, on the other hand, is all about driving a tangible and impactful business outcome and business value, okay, and increasing the holistic, ROI as quickly as possible. So yeah, before I dig deep to the slides decks and take you through the proven or time-tested kind of PMO approach I often use inside the organization that really has given me a very tangible and unquestionable or measurable business value for organizations through the PMO model I've been using. I would like just to take you through very quick the industry data and some of the surveys around the PMO result around 5, let's say, to 10 years before. So if we look at the strategy execution results, so as you know, the strategy life cycle has 3 major phases. So the strategy starts with the strategy definition or strategy formulation, moving or going through the strategy execution, okay, and then the strategy realization. So if we look at the strategy execution phase of the picture, so one of the key results, okay, is 60% of organization today do not really link their budget with the corporate strategy, meaning that there is sort of not, the money is not really aligned with the corporate business objective and strategy, as well as 75% of the middle management do not really have sort of like incentives or promotion, okay, linked to their corporate strategy. And as well as, if you look at the people side of the picture, so 95% of the typical workforce do not really understand their company strategy. So there is obvious sort of like disconnect between the strategy execution and strategy formulation. So initially, when the strategy has been developed, the business planning, the balance scorecard development, and this kind of strategic effort at the front end of the picture, most of the company workforce is not really part of that kind of picture. So there is sort of obvious disconnect between strategy formulation and strategy execution. However, if you look at the strategy, kind of realization at the end of the, within the last phase of the picture, execution is not really aligned with strategy. That means there is sort of surveys come along around 60% of the executive really struggle to bridge the gap between strategy formulation and day-to-day implementation. So considering this kind of result and failures, I could argue around the PMO business value, and the ability of the PMO leaders to drive business value to their companies, oftentimes the business leader, when they hire a PMO, they ask him go and fix the project management, area. Because if you look at the holistic strategy life cycle, they often, perceive there is sort of like, a gap within the strategy execution. So they ask the PMO leaders, okay, go and fix the project management because the project management is really broken. Okay. But it's still, this is I believe this is one of the typical advices of the PMO in the markets, because it's obvious that the main gap is not really within the strategy execution. And I will tell you later, just hold it with me for a while. So it's still, there is sort of like, if we look at the typical result again, when the PMO leader has been advised by the business leaders or the one who hired them to help them to really solve the business problem they're facing, okay, is still there is sort of like 68% of the stakeholder perceive their PMO to be progressive. Okay, and this is kind of, statistic has been gathered from Ghana PMO Summit. And also there is 48% of the team reported a positive leadership with the PMO, which is very low kind of percentage. And so it's still, if you look at the ability to project managers, so program manager, portfolio manager, who those really delivering projects, they're really failing, to meet the project intended business goal and objective. So the goal and kind of quality metrics. So 40 to 60% of these kind of projects not really meeting the intended business outcomes or business goal. Also, there is sort of like 50% of the PMO who lose within the 3 years, and 50 of them started never launch. So this is from Ghana and APM source. So it's really sad kind of stories behind the PMO value, success. It's really 50% of the PMO within maximum 3 years, the PMO failed to deliver value to their organization. So in order to stop this kind of result or the PMO failures, you got to, if you need to have different results, you have to think differently. So the key here, if you keep following the typical advices around the PMO and where the PMO could possibly focus to drive business results, okay, you have to stop, following or getting those kind of typical results or typical advices, yeah? So if I look, let's start first to address the problem with the premise around the alignment of the PMO to the goal of the organization is the key of driving the strategy implementation. This has been quoted from the PMI or PMI Pulse of Profession. So it's very legitimate and it's imperative for the PMO to be successful is the PMO business value, okay, or the PMO value proposition. It has to be sort of like aligned with the business goal and the business strategy and where the company would like to go. So again, if we look at the holistic kind of strategy life cycle, as I said, the strategy life cycle, it encompasses 3 major themes or major phases. So the first one is around the strategy definition. The second one is strategy execution, and the third one is strategy realization. So at the strategy definition, where the value has been defined, where there is number of ideas, or before ideas, there is number of demand has come along through the pipeline, and the project has been approved. So the strategy being defined, then the strategy has been, given to the execution team or this projects or program or delivery team, where the planning and the delivery, of the project has been created. At the end of the cycle of the strategy, so the strategy has to be realized, where the benefit realization has been tracked, the ROI has been measured, and the value has been, realized. So for the PMO to really drive a tangible and sustainable business value, I believe you should look at the holistic, picture of the strategy life cycle. So, and most imperatively, the PMO to drive value, I believe it should, should focus on the strategy definition, okay, and the strategy realization. And oftentimes, most of the business challenges and the business point or the business opportunities that the PMO really assess during the initial phase of putting the right solution or putting the right service offering are happening within the strategy definition itself. So if you set the project at the beginning for success right at the strategy side, at the strategy definition, they'll most likely be able to address the root causes and rather than the symptoms of the business problem that has been often happening within the strategy definition. So one of the best practices, I believe, or the failures, happening in the PMO landscape today, oftentimes the PMO tend to focus on the strategy execution or the strategy delivery phase, while there is a gap often within the strategy definition and strategy realization. So looking back at, when business leaders, they assume that the main problem lies within the strategy execution. So they hire PMO leaders to fix a project management because the project management space or the project management area is really broken. So the PMO leader, they start training the project managers, they give them training programs, and if you have to go for sort of like certification and accreditation to be capable or qualified to lead or deliver projects successfully within time, cost, quality, and scope. Okay, and so you start even creating so more processes, adding more templates, or implement a new system. Okay, but still, as you can see, the problem is still there. You have really realize or drive a tangible business value to your company, because the value, your value is not tied to the quality of the stuff, how much you are busy, how many stuff you are doing. Okay, it's all about the impact. It's all about the tangible business outcome and the value that really help, you know, your business leader or key stakeholder make. So most of the value the PMO often can contribute, I believe, is not really lies within the strategy execution. Okay, it's rather within the strategy definition and the strategy realization. So let me take you through very quick one of the bad practices for PMOs, as I told you. So the PMO, they assume the main problem start within the strategy execution, where they start training projects manager, adding tools, processes. So looking at those kind of problems happening with the strategy execution, strategy definition, oftentimes the projects takes too long, yeah, and costing too much, or the PM not really managing the projects well, or the project team members always behind. So you can see from this kind of cadence, there's sort of like a broken project management, or there is an issue within the project management. So if you do train the project manager, or you do create processes or template and so on, you might realize the final or the result hasn't been realized, or the business benefit, okay, hasn't been met. And the reason why, when you look at the holistic strategy life cycle, so there is sort of a problems often happening within strategy definition. And if you really solve those kind of business problem or challenges ahead before the project gets off the ground, the likelihood you will be more successful and realizing the business outcome and help the company increase the ROI across projects and program and portfolios. So you've got to have a more focus on the strategy definition side. So as I tell you before, the business leader, they assume the problem within the strategy execution. The PMO leaders start training projects manager, creating more processes, templates, and system. So still, there is everything number one priority. There is no real there is no clear intake process in place. There is no business case development in place. There is everything number one priority. And often if everything is number one priority, or if everything is important, nothing is important, right? So still the strategy is unclear, resources often over allocated, manager redirecting resources. Okay, at the end of the picture, so look at the strategy realization, you can see projects that not really meet goals, and the project costing more than the cost is more than the benefits, and there is not measuring value because the triple constraint. And oftentimes the EVM, or the end value management, has nothing to do with the tangible business outcome or the value. It's all about measuring the progress or performance against a baseline of plan and budget and quality. So the PMO leaders keep making the same mistake, which is really training projects manager, creating processes, and so on. So in order for the PMO leader to be more successful, so you have to stop following the typical advice, which is around focusing only on the middle side of the picture, while you have to look holistically across the entire strategy life cycle. Precisely, you've got to focus on the strategy definition. You have to fix the strategy definition, put it right, so that you realize a positive impact and business value at the end of the project, delivery. I will touch more, I mean, in deep details on this slide, which is all about, in order for the PMO leader to start working on a symptoms of a problem, you got to find the root causes behind the symptoms, so that you would put sort of like, permanent solution to the problem, so it will never happen again. So let me take you through one quick example. For instance, if there is one of the symptom is a project taking too long or costing too much, so you got to take a process of asking 5 questions. So there is number of By the way, key methodologies or approaches is to we call it root cause analysis for really spotting the right problem, right than spotting symptoms. Yeah. For instance, there is someone is called fishbone diagrams. There is one is called Pareto analytics, and there is causal factors trees, and there is one called the scatters plots. So there is many root cause analysis kind of techniques you could use. However, the simple one is the 5 whys. Simply you ask 5 whys till you hit the real root cause of the problem. So let's take this one. So if a symptoms like a project taking too long or costing too much, so why that is happening? So project manager is not really managing the project well. And why this is happening? The project team members always behind. And why this is happening? Because there is number of, another projects has been put or added to their plates. And why this is happening? So the team might argue more projects than staff to do them. Okay. And why this is happening? There is obvious, the business leader put the shifting priorities, or there is no clear priorities in place. So the solution, I believe, is to have sort of like feasibility. You have to prioritize those projects. You have to develop sort of like intake process at the front of the strategy development. You have to, align those kind of projects, to the strategic business goal, objective, and outcomes. Yeah. So putting this kind of root cause analysis in place would really help you to spot the right problem rather than symptoms. So eventually, when you put the right solution, you will address, them permanently. To add to that, those kind of mistakes or bad practices for the PMO leaders, I could add those. So oftentimes making assumption, okay, like you assume that you know the solution before you sit with the key stakeholder, and you can see later when I take you through the MVV, the minimum viable product kind of approach, which is really systematic framework I've been using for more than 9 years with different organizations that really help, drive tangible business result. So the process or the framework I will share with you later is really something will safeguard, you for having the same mistake or meeting this kind of failures, I've shared before. So one of these kind of mistakes, there is no clear value proposition. So the PMO at the start, when the PMO leader has been hired for a role to help the company move forward or transform the business strategy, is really, there is no clear value proposition. There is no clear purpose. So the whys for the PMO is not really understood by the business leader. Okay. Another one of the key mistakes is starting in the middle with templates and processes, as I tell you. So oftentimes PMO leaders start with creating tools and templates and processes without addressing the other pain point within the strategy definition and strategy realization. And oftentimes the PMO, they came with a mindset, they assume they know the answer, because if they have successful stories with another organization, they assume, okay, this company might have the same problem, they might have same challenges, so I will use the same model. And there is no one size could fit all. So this is one of the key assumptions. So you got to give them what they need. I mean, you give them what they want before you give them what they need. So don't assume you know the answer before you're sitting with the key stakeholder, understand the key pain point, the challenges and opportunities exist within the company. From there, you could define or develop the right service offering that really fits and align with those kind of, challenges has been addressed or assessed. Another one mistake, I believe, the going tool first. So before you understand the company maturity level, without understanding whether there is a mature process in place, so you might automate the wrong process. And this is one of the mistake often PMO leader, fail into. So even there is wrong sizing, wrong size reporting. So you got to be right size kind of gold block a PMO leader. So you have to be nimble, adaptive, and flexible, using the right size communication, reporting, governance, portfolio, So you got to be nimble in everything you do, because whenever there's sort of shifting priorities, you can adapt, very quickly. Underestimating stakeholder management. So one of the key success factor, I believe, for every PMO business transformation journey is you have to bring people with you through the change journey or the change process. You you got to be sort of like, emotional intelligent. You have to hone the skills about emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, and change leadership intelligence. Because without bringing people with you, without those kind of stakeholder, eventually, buying what you offering them and supporting your journey, it will be a big failure. So you got to be careful. You got to partner with them. You got to understand their wisdom, what you need from me, from their perspective. You got to understand their need, the most important things for them, and give them what they want before you give them what you assume they need. And the last, not the least, there is culture shock and resistance. So if you do change to people, oftentimes people they they don't like change to be happen to them. They like change, however, to be done with them, through them. Okay, so in order to avoid any sort of like resistance, you got to bring people with you through the journey. You have to understand, the needs and the level of frustration, build positive relationship with them as quickly as possible so that you can be very successful. So, okay, now I will take you through the PMO impact or PMO value model I've been using for nearly, as I said, 9 to 10 years so far. I've been working, by the way, in different, contexts or industries, public, private, consulting, non-profit organization, okay? And I have nearly around 19 years of experience. This kind of PMO model, I've been using it. It has really given an exceptional, unquestionable, undeniable kind of result. So I'm gonna take you very quick through that, okay? So the framework is all about, a 4 or 5 step framework, So when you take a PMO leadership role, you have to understand the PMO value proposition and you got to assess the company current capabilities. You got to understand, you have to, sit with different key stakeholders and you should start with executives, okay? To understand the current situation as is, to understand if there is sort of like pains or challenges or opportunities within the company today need to address through the PMO offering later. So then you derive or develop or design sort of like service offering or capabilities that hopefully will close or mitigate or solve those kind of pain has been addressed as part of the assessment. Then you would realize outcomes or business value at the end, okay? Then you would realize the impact and the ultimate business value, at the end, you know. Then you have to put sort of like metrics, impact metrics rather than project metrics only to ensure you have successful story, has been realized. So this is like step-by-step kind of guide, really builds a strong and sustainable business-driven PMO model. And it's really a solution driving a high return of investment. Okay, it's really shifting the focus about the PMO, but it's not only like, driving the project throughputs. It's all about really having a great ROI. It's really having to maximize the ROI. And by the way, the ROI isn't really fuzzy word. So the ROI could be tangible or could be quantifiable or qualitative or quantitative kind of ROI. So and you can get to the result and outcome of this kind of model very quickly because your approach is going to be adaptive and nimble. You have to deliver one single service offering within 90 days or 3 months. Okay, that's why I'm calling it MVP. So every 3 months you will deliver one single service offering. You give it some time to stick. If it's working, we'll keep it and repeat it. If it's not working, you will adjust it or delete it. So I'm gonna take you in deep dive detail later on the second slide to tell you how this kind of approach or model working. Yes, bear with me. Okay, then. So the first step within the PMO value system I've been using for 9 years so far. Initially, as I told you, you have to look, it's all about the mindset or the mind shift. So the mindset or the mind shift is all about, you have to look at the holistic strategy life cycle. You have to think of any gaps, opportunities might lies within the strategy definition, strategy execution, and strategy realization. Instead of only focusing on strategy execution, okay? And you got to be careful, or you come with a mindset as impact driver. So you got to make sure that you are not really driving project result only. you are a PMO leader or a business leader. Okay, you have sort of like a strategic mindset in place. You thinking about driving a kind of impact result rather than project result. Okay, so the second step, you have to assess the current capabilities within the company. You have to have sort of like, you should schedule sort of like meetings and surveys. Whatever the approach you take for the assessment, you have to sit with the executive phase. You have to sit with different key stakeholders. You have to assess the current strategy delivery within the company. So you have to understand the holistic kind of current state, how, what sort of, opportunities exist within the company today, what gaps, what, challenges they have today. And you could put eventually sort of like a small presentation about, okay, this is what has been found as a result of the assessment. You take the leadership and the key stakeholder who has been, assessed. Okay, this is the key challenges or opportunities who have been addressed. And now I need from you guys to prioritize. So we are not gonna boil the ocean. We're not gonna implement all of them at once. We're gonna put sort of like, one stove, one pot of water in the stove. So you got to be agile and nimble. Then at the third phase, you start defining high services based on the assessment finding. Okay, so you have to start with sort of like determine the direction. So the direction is all about the root cause analysis. Remember when I take you through the steps of step by step, kind of asking 5 questions to address the real problem rather than the symptom of the problem. So this is all about, you have to make sure you're addressing the real problem of the symptom rather than putting a bandit, on a symptom that really might need surgery to heal or to recover. So number one step in defining the high service offering, you have to determine the root cause analysis. You have to find the real problem through asking 5 questions. Then you can define high service offering based on the assessment you have, find. Then you have to define your governance model. Who they're gonna steer the portfolio of projects, who will be putting sort of like high level strategic direction and support and guidance, who would be your advisory board whenever there is sort of like an issue and escalation. So you have to start with defining the governance, how you're going to govern this kind of PMO framework eventually. And you start with, is good all the time to start with portfolio management framework. Okay, you might start at the strategy definition. You should put sort of like a business case development intake process. Okay, you have to prioritize all the key initiatives. Okay, so you have to define a high-level portfolio model that really help the senior leadership, give them the high-level transparency and informative kind of guiding their decision making. So when they have, I mean, the business leader have holistic kind of understanding, this is a number of key projects. At least if you give them a list of all projects, you give them sense of feasibility to the portfolio, so they could really help to drive decision and make action swiftly based on information. Then later you could start developing your tools and templates and defining your talents, and you define your value metrics, how you're going to measure value and so on. As you can see here in the definition phase, we start defining, tools and resources and template at the end, after we understand the real cause, understand the problems, what sort of challenges, what pain point, what opportunities exist. And this has been happening within the assessment. Then we define the root cause behind this kind of problem. Then we define the services. At the end, we start developing tools and templates, because those tools and templates are means to the end and not the end themselves. So after you define the services, you have to create a business plan. Oftentimes, one of the key mistakes as well, the PMO leader start with developing a charter for projects. So when the project is over, the PMO is over. So for the PMO, a business-driven model PMO, you have to start with a business plan. Same like an IT function, same like a business development function. Okay, you have to put down the vision, the mission, the strategic impact. You put sort of like a roadmap, how you're going to implement all those kinds of offering. You have to create sort of like targets. You have to put sort of like a strategy for communication with the key stakeholder. So you have to be a business plan, okay? Because it's really sustainable, evolving kind of business unit rather than, a project. When a project is over, or like sort of temporary and over, yeah? So you build a business plan, then you create a maturity model. So you get to understand, or you tailor or you align what what you will deliver later, that's something aligned with the company current maturity. And you put sort of like implementation roadmap or delivery roadmap. Yeah. This roadmap, it has all the service offering. You have the capabilities, you have the timeline when you're going to implement them. And make sure when you implement those kind of service offering, you put them in iterative kind of agile, format. Every 3 months, you have to put one single service offering or capabilities. Then you give it some time to stick. Okay. So after putting the roadmap, you have to develop sort of like target and metrics. And when you put a target or metrics for measuring the success story of the PMO, looking at the both picture, looking at the project success and looking at the PMO or impact or value metric, you know, in place. So for the project management, you could look for cost, time, scope, and quality, this kind of triple constraint. For the impact the PMO could drive, you could look at time to market. You could look for innovation impact. You could look at ROI. You could look at this risk effectiveness. You could look at the staff, kind of productivity improvement. You could look at customer satisfaction index. There is a number of key impactful metrics you could put rather than, in addition to the project related metrics. So this is step 4. You put the plan, you lay out the roadmap. Okay. When you're done with the roadmap and you define the metrics, you define the communication plan with the key stakeholder, we create sort of like a maturity model. You have to present the final delivery proposal in front of the key business leaders. Okay. Where you take them through the journey, guys. Okay. This is the step I have taken. I have assessed the organization. I have defined the service offering. Okay. We define the governance. We define the portfolio model. We define our talents. So for the talents, you get to make sure that you bring the right talents with the right skill set who will deliver result faster, who understand what the PMO gonna drive. Okay. Then you put the value metrics, you define the templates and resources. Okay. So eventually you put sort of like a proposal, final solution proposal. Okay. This is how it takes. This is the journey will take, and this is the roadmap. Okay. You have to approve this delivery proposal with the leadership. Then you start delivering. One of the key mistakes, oftentimes PMO leader, they start delivering from day one. So they miss step 1, they miss step 2, they miss step 3, they miss step 4. They start delivering result or they start delivering value. For instance, they start with execution phase. They start creating templates. They start creating processes. They create starting tools. So they really fail short because they don't really understand what it takes to be successful, because they haven't looked at the holistic strategy life cycle. Okay, because they haven't formulate or they assess their readiness to be a value-driven kind of PMO leaders. They haven't set themselves as impact driver, at the beginning of the journey. So at the step 5, you have to deliver sustainable business value. You drive those kind of business offering. You start delivering, on those services. Every quarter, you put one single offering and so on. At the step 6, which is the last one, you got to evolve. So after time, every 6 months, every 3 months, you look again at the roadmap and you evolve and you start delivering and so on. Okay. And you might shift to sort of like you put yourself or thinking ahead for any sort of like a strategic kind of leadership role. So because the PMO leader is really strategy navigator and the PMO leader really strategic business partner for the company. So they might think of different places they put themselves. So this really give them sort of like strategic mindset and help them to be seated at the table with the leadership. Okay. So this is a nutshell, kind of step-by-step PMO value model is all about MPV. The reason why I call it MPV is all about you delivering value iteratively in very agile format. Okay. And just one note to put here. So I'm really developing, sort of like a very detailed, comprehensive kind of implementation program or training programs, all about all these 5 or 6 steps. Okay. So maybe shortly, within a couple of months or 3 months maximum, I will put all the content. It's really heavy content where it has all the resources, it has the templates, it has its worksheet, and there is even bonuses around, kind of PMO ebooks behind it and cheat sheets. So I'm gonna put sort of like comprehensive kind of training program or training proposal around this kind of, model because it's really beneficial to adopt and is really giving me very successful and has been used by different organizations so far. So if I take you in further details, very quick, as I said, in the mindset, you have to start with a holistic strategy life cycle to address the opportunities, to address any sort of challenges and pain point. So you got to come with the mindset of a PMO value driver, okay? Then you have, and this is roughly takes you like 1 week to come with a mindset. The second phase is like you start with assessing the current capabilities, the current organization, having different, and this is by the way, the step where you build a positive relationship with the key stakeholder, which is really key for success. When you sit with the key stakeholder, you have, when you listen to them carefully, you don't justify their problems. You don't need to justify their issues. You listen to them carefully. You build positive relationship with them because this would be the foundation for your success. So you have two legitimate, benefits doing the assessment with the key stakeholder and with the C-suite executive or the business leader, okay, is building positive relationship and addressing key challenges and pain point before defining or delivering any solution. One of the key kind of tactics and strategies I often use has been adopted by quite long as a best practices within the PMI to how to really navigate through different key stakeholder is if you look at the quadrant kind of interest of the key stakeholder. So who fall within low interest with the low power, you should monitor them closely. And if there is in high interest with a high kind of power key stakeholder, you got to manage them closely, give them what they need, keep them engaged, keep them motivated, give them the right information, and so on. And another tactics for PMO adoption and PMO success when you taking this journey with your leadership or with the key stakeholder, you got to understand where they are. So there is 3 different kind of key stakeholder types. There is a lover, there is a hater, there is a don't care. The lovers, those who's really the initial champion, the adopter of the PMO. They have a very successful story of the previous PMO. Okay, I'm sorry. And they often really do whatever it takes to really motivate you, to support you, to help you succeed and shine. So even those lovers, you don't need to take them for granted. So you got to be careful because at some point they might be shifting from a lover to be a hater. Okay, if you keep ignoring them, if you not keep engaging them and so on. The haters, those really obvious haters. So the key strategy is to listen to them carefully. You don't need to talk much. Strategy to bring them in your advisory mode is you got to bring them in advisory group, yeah. Okay. And simply you could ask them a question like, okay, guys, put yourself in my shoes. What could I do possibly differently to help you support me? Okay. And there is another one is don't care. Don't care, you got to understand that we from motivate for me from the perspective, you have to connect the PMO impact and the business value to their WIFM. And oftentimes all about personal, emotional, or sort of financial kind of needs. So you got to be careful about this kind of WIFM. So whenever you put offering, you could put them as part of the governance board, you could put them of the portfolio management team. Think of them as advisory whenever you need a support, whenever you need to roll out the new service. You have to listen to them, ask them, guys, what shall I do? Give me your input, give me your feedback, keep them engaged, keep them involved, bring them into the fold and make them part of the advisory group. Yeah. So for define, as I said, define, you have to define the direction, which is all about the root cause analysis. Then you find the value of services, and you have to put a governance to govern the PMO journey and the PMO service offering. And you have to define the portfolio managed model. Okay, and so eventually could realize ROI as possible. So you put at the end of this, you put sort of like tools and template resources and so on. So, and this is, I'm sorry, this is text like defining the value services, it's like 3 weeks roughly. It depends based on the speed or the based on your environment. So it might take less or more. So creating a value delivery success path for the plan. So you create a business plan. You have to sort of like a roadmap moving forward. You create a value measurement plan. You create a communication plan, and you put sort of like a proposal, delivery proposal in front of the leadership. Then you start, delivering or realizing kind of ROIs through putting those kind of services into implementation. And the key success is to bring people with you through the change journey. Okay, keep them engaged, keep them involved, keep them motivated, connect the impact to their WIFM, and even keep them part of the decision. Even if eventually they take the credit of the PMO success, as long as the mission has been accomplished, you are happy, they're happy. So keep them engaged, even if they take the credit of the PMO, but make sure you put the right market behind the PMO. So you own it. If you don't own it, someone else will own it. However, keep them engaged. Let them take the credit. Okay. Then yeah. So the last, not the least, I would like to summarize the key success secrets. I believe for any sort of like PMO journey. Going through this implementation, all about you take it step by step. Every 3 months, you put one single service offering, give it some time to stick. Then you evolve. Then perfection is the enemy of progress. What I mean to that? So you don't need to put sort of like a very kind of perfect service. You tailor it to an extent that really fits the need, or you bring quick wins as quickly as possible. Then you could develop it. You could really perfect it as you go. Okay. And another secret, you got to fix the root cause. The root cause of the problem that really would help the problem will never show up again. So you put sort of permanent solution, and you must create sort of like a pull for your solution. Then put a push, bring people with you through the chain, understand their WIFM, connect their impact to their WIFM, and partner with them. Then give them what they want before give them what they need. So when you come as a PMO leader in a new company, make sure before you give them, this is what you need. I know, let's assume like a doctor. So you know all the symptoms, you know all the problem. This is what you have to take. So take them through the journey, listen to them, address their pain point. Okay, give them what they want before you give them what they need. Yeah. So thank you so much indeed. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed.
Back to you.
It was
Yeah.
fantastic session on the PMO value model, and especially the slide which is showing a 6-step process on how to implement the PMO value model. We received a lot of feedbacks on that particular slide. It was very insightful details. Okay, we have few questions from our audience. So one question is, in your experience, what is the percentage of output from root cause analysis is due to lack of focus strategy, formulation, and realization compared to those related to strategy execution?
Could you elaborate me? What do you mean by how much
So
percentage for what?
what is the percentage of output from root cause analysis due to lack of focus strategy formulations? Yeah.
It's the way you look at it is not like about you put a percentage about how much the problem is all about, so to spot the real cause or the real problem. You got to take any step-by-step kind of 5 question of why need to be asked to spot till you figure out what is the real cause of the problem. Because oftentimes, when PMO leaders start the journey, they start addressing a symptoms rather than a real cause. Okay, so if, for instance, if the project really taking too long or costing too much, there is a very legitimate cause behind it. So you've got to dig deep, asking 5 questions to the key stakeholder till you find the root problem. Then when you put the solution, you put solution that really lasts forever. I hope it
So
answered.
it is basically that your why slides, which talks about all 5 or 6 questions about why to do it.
5,
Correct?
simply 5 questions. Why this is happening? It's
Why?
happening because of this.
That's
Yeah. Till you hit.
correct.
Yeah.
till we hit the right notes and we get our answer.
Yes, exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
I hope it's answered the questions. And we have another question from Ashraf Anjum. Shouldn't there be a feedback and review loop incorporated between this all six steps? So basically, there were six steps how to implement those PMO value model. So Ashraf Anjum is asking, will there be any one loop to be incorporated for feedback and the review?
Yeah, you're right. This is very good question. So within till you hit the deliver one single service offering, I mean, starting from the setting the mindset, setting yourself up for success. Okay, understand or assess your readiness, formulate the right mindset for the journey ahead of you. Then you start assessing the current, challenges or the current opportunities within the company. Okay.
Right.
Then you
Yeah.
start defining the service offering, define the root causes for the problem. By the time you start delivering, when you have to deliver one single service offering, you don't have to boil the ocean. You are not going to implement the whole list of service offering you have identified based on the assessment outcomes. So you put one single service offering to your plate, give it some time to stick, and you might collect sort of like a feedback or sort of like, surveys, those key stakeholder, or you might take one single business unit, you implement for them one single service offering, okay? You give it some time to stick, you see how it works for them, okay? You collect feedback. So you connect back to the key stakeholder, what is the outcome, what is the business value has been realized as part of this kind of PMO service has been implemented. However,
Okay.
this kind of cadence, step-by-step process is all connected one to another. You cannot skip doing defining unless you do the assessment. You cannot start delivering unless you define. You cannot really delivering unless you put sort of like high-level roadmap, okay, of service offering. And you cannot really start working on them unless you prioritize them. You ask is the key
Okay.
leadership, or you ask the key stakeholder, guys, we need to prioritize what shall be done first, what next, and so on.
All right. So we have another questions from Mr. Abhishek Sengupta. Can a charter be created on both the project level, project and program level?
Developing a charter, it is for projects. So you might have a project charter or program charter. However, for a PMO is a business transformation journey. A PMO is a big business-driven engine. Look at it this way. So simply project management is all about the process we use to drive business results, right? So while the PMO is the impact or the engine that really drive the impact inside organizations. So when you're setting a project right for success or to initiate or to authorize the project to start, you start with a project charter, yeah? Where you define the project purpose, the project, intended business outcome, you define the key stakeholder, you put the success metric, and you put high-level key risk and so on. Same it goes for the program. However, for the PMO, because the PMO, we think about it, especially in this model, is as business unit, same like IT, same like business development, and so on. So you have to build a business plan. Same like you put a business plan, 5 years business plan for the company, because this is kind of sustainable, evolving.
Mm.
It lasts forever. So every single 3 months, you might define another service offering, or referring back to the roadmap you define, you implement, you keep the company moving wherever it likes to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. So we have one more question. So I don't know what exactly he wanted to know, but do you go in with the team to support the company, or do you do it by yourself? I think it was meant like, all this process, the business value model. Okay, it has to be as a teamwork, probably, right?
Yeah.
It
I
has to
do
be
it.
driven by the PMO
Yeah.
team or.
Yes, you're right. This is very legitimate question. Thank you for that. So I believe oftentimes, the PMO could be a journey of one single PMO leader has been hired to take a journey of a PMO transformation within the company. So to build the right capabilities, you have to, at some point, you have to bring the right talents, the right teams that really support your journey move. So it could possibly be one PMO of one who's really responsible for the whole kind of service delivery and impact realization of the company. Or it could possibly be as you scale up, you might need, to bring teams and talent you know,
To support
down the road. Yeah, to support. Yeah, for sure.
to support the journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another question from Mohammad Shihab Adin. So he has two questions. He said he was very he liked your session very much, and he said how to
Yeah, thank you.
overcome organization culture challenges. That is the first
I'm sorry.
question.
What is
How
that? I'm
to
sorry.
overcome organizations culture challenges.
Culture. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, okay, this is the one culture. Okay, what the second?
The second is the PMO value system is the kind of agile implementation, and so can we start it with the defining the value to be delivered?
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So the first question, the culture. So in order to avoid any sort of like cultural shock for the PMO, in order to be successful in your journey, and because this model has been built, by the way, on organizational change management kind of framework. Okay. So if you're really missing a very important piece, which is all about the change, and it's all about bringing people with you through the change journey, you're gonna fail it. So oftentimes there is an old say in project management, strategy eats the culture eats strategy on breakfast. So you got to be careful about bringing people with you through the journey. And if you can see in the first step, after you setting your mindset ready for the journey, you start assessing the current challenges or the current opportunities, right?
Correct.
You do this kind of assessment with the key stakeholder. Yeah. So during this kind of phase, you build sort of like a positive relationship with them.
Correct.
So building the positive relationship with the key stakeholder, understand their wisdom, okay, understand their myth, the most important thing. Bring them with you through the change journey, bring them into your fold, and look at it from, a cognitive kind of mindset. So if someone bows on your arm, the number one reaction you will do, you pull back. Yeah, because this is survival. Yeah. So, however, if you partner with someone, you tell them this is what is gonna take, why the change is happening, where it will be implemented, how it will be implemented, who would be impacted, when it will be implemented, and what is the value or the why of this kind of change. So help them to understand or to answer this kind of question with you together. So, partner with them. So it's all
Yeah.
about kind of, connection, building positive relationship, and bringing them with you through the change. Instead of doing change to them,
Correct.
doing change with them. So most likely it would
Correct.
really solve the problem with the culture or the change resistant or whatever it takes down the hole. So you have to be careful is to adopt a very agile kind of stakeholder change management, approach in place. Yeah. But the agile, the
Correct.
PMO kind of framework or the PMO model I've shared with you guys so far is all about, it really fits any different implementation approach, which is agile, waterfall, Kanban, waterfall, like mix of, different agile implementation methodology, because it's in its core, it's nimble, agile, adaptive kind of model, and you don't need to implement the services all in at once. You don't need to boil the ocean every single 1 month or 3 months maximum. You have to deliver one single service offering. You give it some time to stick. You seek a feedback from the audience or from the key impact stakeholder, and you will see how it goes. If it's working, we'll keep it and repeat it. If it's not really working, you might amend it, you might delete it, you might shift, adapt, and so on. So it's really agile in its nature. It's all about, and it's embracing an agile kind of concept and mindset. Even the mindset at the beginning of how to set yourself for the journey is all about assessing your current kind of agility mindset. So you got to be agile leader, you got to be nimble, you got to be change,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It will take time for people to adapt it. But you
Yeah,
have
for
to be
sure.
consistent and keep showing the value to them. And
Correct.
it takes some time. And then, as you said rightly, we have to make a change with them. We don't have to
Correct.
change them. We have to make a change with them. So we have
Correct.
another question from Indumati. How does the MPV model address the complexity of measuring ROI for a project indirect or long-term impact? ROI for project indirect and long-term impact.
Measuring the project ROI, or you mean the impact of the company kind of? Yeah.
Measuring the ROI for project ROI,
Oh,
I think. Yeah.
the project
Indirect and
ROI,
long-term impact.
long-term impact of, okay. Simply, when you look at the projects, kind of business value, initially successful companies, they start with a very mature intake process in place. The intake process is often happening within the strategy definition phase. Okay, so where it's all about you put together sort of a mature business, well justify the business case, addressing all the business needs and the why for the project and what sort of problem the project will articulate or solve. So understand putting the right key benefits metric or the benefit realization metrics or the impact or the business value would be realized when the project has been successful at the end. So making sure to start with the business case, we're defining those kind of key metrics or KPI for measuring ROI. And simply the ROI is all about the total, like look at it from the worth it factor. The worth it factor, is it worthy to invest time, cost, quality, scope, resources? Okay, that will have an impact greater than the invest has been made. So the cost should be less than the effort or the investment has been put together initially, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
the ROI simply is all about benefits plus value minus cost. It could
Correct.
be qualitative, quantitative, because oftentimes people they really struggle to define the ROI because it's really fuzzy word. It could be qualitative kind of ROIs, for instance, customer satisfaction, employee morale, processes improvement. Is not really something
Correct.
tangible or quantifiable, sort of like, the improving the profit or decreasing the cost and so on. Yeah. So the
Yeah.
impact and
And
the
this
business
will be
value
long-term.
is all, yeah, it's all about the putting the right metric right, define the metric right at the beginning, at the business case, keep tracking, monitoring the project during the entire life cycle of the project, and make sure when the project is over, the PM is over, is no longer to track or to make sure the ROI has been realized. Make sure the PMO could step in and making sure the ROI has been measured and has been realized months,
Correct.
years after the project has been closed. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So there's another question from Shahid Mukaddam. There's a lot of the MVP is nowadays defined by the product managers instead of the project manager. How can a pure project manager identify the at organization drive this?
How the projects, what? I'm sorry.
How can a pure project manager
Mm.
identify it at organization to drive this? So he's saying many days nowadays in an organization, this MVP is been defined by the product managers, not by the project managers.
Ah,
But okay, so how can a project manager can be identified at the organization to drive this? What kind
so
of project manager we can identify to drive this MVP within this organization?
yeah, if I understood correctly, the question, I believe the MPVs could be used in different arena or in different contexts. For instance, the MPV could be when it comes to product development, or when you put a backlog, you put the scope of the project in sort of like in the backlog. There is sort of like a sprint kind of review and so on. So you're realizing the project intended business benefit and you realize value at incremental phases because you put sort of like an agile approach of implementation, right? It's not like a waterfall kind of classical way of delivering projects. You realize the whole value when the project's totally or completely has been closed or completed, yeah? While
Yeah,
for the product, from a product standpoint, when you put sort of like implementation, agile implementation approach, you would realize tangible, small iterative value using MPV. Oftentimes they call it minimum marketable features, yeah? So you realize the value at very incrementally small values during the within iteration or sprint. However, the project manager might not really part of the initial kind of scope definition at the early phases at the strat definition. That's why the projects might fail, or the classical project manager might not really understand the concept of agile implementation. And often there is a dilemma between the product management and project management. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think that's all. This is all the questions we have so far from all the audience. I hope even this answers satisfies them. So we'll be sharing the presentation also shortly after this webinar. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you for this wonderful session and enlightening us on the MVP values. And it's a wonderful session, and it is really enlightening. And thank you all the attendees for joining us for this insightful webinar, okay, session with PMO. PMO value from your PMI UAE chapter. We wish you all very happy Diwali, those who are celebrating. And you have a great evening ahead, and see you again for the next webinar and the face-to-face event. Thank you all. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
Ahmed.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, pleasure having me. Good day.
Thank you.